Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Danny, and we're here reacting to what we've just seen from Las Vegas as Gervonta Tank Davis has produced a stunning knockout in the eighth round to stop the previously unbeaten Frank Martin and retain his WBA World Lightweight title. Yeah, Danny, let's jump straight into that. We were just chatting there, and you said it yourself, you won't see many better knockouts than that. What was your thoughts on basically the fight and how the fight played out, and how did you have it? Because it was quite a tight one.
Yeah, so I had Frank Martin ahead at the time of the stoppage, but the gap was narrowing. It was I had him 4-2 up after the first six and then 4-3 after seven, but Tank really started to get them in that seventh round. Thought Martin started really well, give him a clean sweep of the first three rounds. But just as the fight got into that second half, he was spending more and more time in the corner. Like Davis, I can't remember the last time I've seen Gervonta Davis be that aggressive. Like the recent fights he's played, like was against Garcia, went in the back foot. Romero, I remember him not throwing very many punches at all, but this was like a return to when he was at welter or sort of featherweight and made that knockout. Like after the uppercut landed, like I didn't even realize in real time. It was only when I seen the replay, like Frank Martin he's lucky to like be up and okay, to be honest, because he was completely defenseless and once you see him go flat in the back from a Tank Davis left hand, you know it's a wrap, don't you, really?
Yeah, totally agree with everything you said there. I have to echo what you said. I had Frank Martin up as well. To be honest with you, I thought he was boxing really well. But as you say, that gap was closing and the stoppage was coming. But I don't think any of us, well, maybe we were wrong for not expecting it to be that emphatic because that's what Tank Davis can do. But yeah, I think the fight kind of went as I kind of thought it would, and I know a lot of people might have thought it would. In terms of Frank Martin. I imagined he would have caused Tank Davis a lot of problems early on with his boxing skills and his technical ability off the back foot, which he did. But it was only a matter of time before Tank got his eye in. Look for them sharp counters, them powerful counters, and got the stoppage, which is how it played out. But yeah, credit to Frank Martin for his performance there, and just on what else you said. Tank Davis being so aggressive, it is great to see. It was a fabulous performance. Even early on, I thought when he was getting outboxed, he still looked relaxed. He still looked confident in his own ability and his own power that he knew it would have came true and he would have started to break him down, which he did. But yeah, hopefully this is the Tank Davis we see going forward in terms of aggression and educated aggression and pressure and that's what we watch boxing for, really. It really is. So yeah, great performance from both there. Frank Martin could definitely come again. He fought so well. He's not going to be not the first and not the last to be stopped by Gervonta Davis. So yeah, credit to him. But yeah, that's our reaction to the fight. Emphatic stoppage. Really was. Tank Davis still undefeated, still massively heavy-handed. So I'm gonna move on now to what's next. Tank Davis, it's an interesting one with him to talk about what's next. It really is. It's hard to pin down a weight division that he's gonna kind of settle at. Is he a natural lightweight? Is he, will he go back to kind of super lightweight? Many people say he's too small for that, and he is an ideal lightweight, but I'm gonna ask you where you see him going next. I suppose what you want to see him, who you want to see him fight next, and who you think he'll go for next. There's a lot of fascinating fights. Shakur Stevenson at lightweight, Lomachenko, and then if he was to go up, you've got Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, a Ryan Garcia rematch. Where do you see Tank Davis going next?
It's like throwing a fucking dart at the map, mate, honestly. I watched an interview with Bob Arum this morning actually. He claims there's talks with PBC for Tank versus Top Rank have got all three of the other lightweight world titles in Shakur, Lomachenko, and that Denis Berinchyk. So I'm not sure why they wouldn't try and consolidate them together and make Shakur versus Lomachenko, for example. Fight I've always thought. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the Isaac Cruz rematch. Obviously, he's a fully fledged world champion up at 140. Who knows? What I would like to see, I would love to see that Lomachenko fight. Like that's just in every like the clash of styles, the clash of like personalities, the clash of what they represent in the sport. Whereas Lomachenko's your sort of seasoned amateur, won everything in the amateurs. Is only interested in legacy, whereas Tank's like taking on this Mayweather baton of being the A side and knowing it and flexing it and not caring about belts and just caring about money. So I would love to see that. I would love to see Shakur for the build up. The build up would be fantastic. I really don't know who I'd pick in that. Do I think either of those fights will happen? I'm not fully convinced, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair enough. As we mentioned, like with Tank Davis, as you mentioned there yourself, being the kind of picking the A side fights more so than the legacy fights, I wouldn't hold my breath either. Especially when it comes to it, Lomachenko, he's made comments in the past himself, which kind of really infuriated me and a lot of other people saying how he doesn't need to fight Lomachenko yet and wait until he gets that bit older and then you know people thought Lomachenko would be past it, but he proved against Kambosos. I know Kambosos is not Tank Davis, but Lomachenko did look good there in that one. But yeah, as you
Put
said,
it out.
there's a lot of good fights, entertaining fights, purely for the build up alone. Never mind the fascinating clash of styles. But if I had to pick one too, I would pick Lomachenko for me for every reason you just mentioned there. I think it's so fascinating. The matchup and I'd love to just ask you like who would you pick in that? I know Lomachenko has seen better days, but he's still quality and Tank Davis is really just looking like he's hitting his prime now. Who would you go for on that?
You're absolutely right about Lomachenko. He looked a lot better than I thought he would against Kambosos. Don't get me wrong, I thought he would win. Did not think he would stop him. Did not think he'd be anywhere near like as dominant. I mean, he dominated that fight from start to finish. In saying that, I think you'd be a brave man to bet against Tank Davis getting to him at some point at this stage, which I would love Lomachenko to win if the fight was to happen. I make no bones in saying that because when they were both at 126, like Tank just like shamelessly ducked him, or Tank's who was looking after Tank, they had no interest whatsoever in fighting Lomachenko. And as you say, it's just waiting a great fighter out and then picking them off. But I think that's what would happen. I think, especially that aggressive Tank we saw tonight, like I think at some point he'll catch up to Lomachenko, and it could be quite sad to see actually, even though I'm saying I would love to see the fight. I'm not sure I would love the outcome, but so like that tells you what you need to know about my pick. What about you?
Yeah, again, again, I'll echo everything you said. I'm a huge Lomachenko fan. Not so much Tank Davis, but I'll leave kind of bias aside out of it. He is a great fighter. That's what frustrates me about Tank Davis. There's no need for all this other stuff. The picking certain fights, waiting for his out, rehydration clauses, all that. He doesn't need it. He's so talented and so powerful. But I think if it was to happen, I think Tank would get to him at this stage. Maybe a few years ago, I'd have a different opinion, but I think now he's just a bit too powerful and too much in his prime for Lomachenko, and I think he could stop him. To be honest with you, I think he could be the first person to stop him, especially as you said, if he was as aggressive as he was tonight and relaxed looking as he was tonight, he could do it. But how great would it be if Lomachenko could roll back the years for one more great performance?
Oh man,
And beat Tank Davis, it'd just solidify him even more as an all-timer. It really would be amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
unreal.
Before I let you go, as I say, there's so many good fights. We'd need a whole other video to kind of talk about it. What's next for Tank Davis? Yeah, before I let you go, the other kind of superstar at 135, Shakur Stevenson. How did you see that one go?
Really, really tricky one. Shakur obviously has caught a lot of flack for his showing against Edwin de los Santos, which could be the worst fight I've ever watched. Like, not even exaggerating, I've watched hundreds of fights. I think that genuinely could be the worst fight I've ever watched. I've never seen a fighter box that negatively. And like,
Yeah,
no, oh, I was injured, which really made me sort of pump the brakes on Shakur, who I had been very high on. Who would have picked in that? I've not seen Shakur take enough like damage to know that, like we say with Lomachenko gets hit to an extent where Shakur doesn't really get hit. So I would give Shakur probably a better chance stylistically than I would Lomachenko. Saying that, it would be a horrendous fight if Shakur was to win. Um, I'd maybe lean Shakur on that. I think Shakur maybe is Tank's kryptonite stylistically.
yeah, I agree. I'd go Shakur. As you mentioned, it'd probably be boring as hell, but I am really high on Shakur. You're right about the De Los Santos fight. It was a stinker, but I do feel Shakur is kind of quality enough that he will be able to nullify Tank for 12 rounds to get it done. I think he's that good, so I'd Shakur points on that one, but hopefully we get to see these fights happening sooner rather than later at 135 and 140.
Be O'Hara Davis or something, mate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, oh God, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, hopefully we're proved wrong. Anyways, that's all we have time for on this. Our reaction to what we've seen from Las Vegas as Gervonta Tank Davis remains undefeated with another stunning knockout over Frank Martin, the previously unbeaten Frank Martin in the MGM Grand. And yeah, it's going to be a highlight for a contender for knockout of the year. That one, it really is. Let us know what you think in the comments. What did you think of the performance? Were you impressed? And yeah, what do you think's next for Tank Davis in the fascinating career? And how do you see him getting on in these mega fights with the other champions at 135 or 140? So yeah, drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all social media, and Danny, it's been a pleasure and take care.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.